All right, back to the unofficial ending and what kept them up so late into the end of last week. The final act focused on libraries and the budget for the Commission for Libraries. Joe Paris joins us now. I mean, you look at that and go, library budgets, really? How did this become a late session buzzword, or in some cases a buzzkill? What was the end result with this, and why?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that too, because I heard a lot of side conversations out at Treat Fort, people discussing what possibly went on there. So if you're having one of those side conversations this weekend, here's your answer. Late on Friday night, the fifth version of the Commission for Libraries budget finally passed, and it included the cut of federal ARPA dollars to the tune of about $3.5 million. And that money would have gone towards telehealth access projects for rural areas. Now, some lawmakers have said that they simply could not support taking and using those federal dollars. The final budget that passed also had a cut of $300,000 that would have been used for an Idaho ebook program for K-12 students, but both of those written out of the final bill. Democrat lawmakers maintain today that they believe that the cut is punitive, a punishment, so to speak, against librarians who spoke out on House Bill 666. Now, HB 666, you may recall, it would have removed the obscenity exemption for public schools, libraries, and museums, which are and continue to be exempt from Idaho's harmful materials laws. After hours of debate and redrafting legislation and some private behind-the-scenes conversations, as well as some math, lawmakers passed the Commission for Libraries budget, but that was not the end. Oh no. The Idaho House also debated a resolution on Friday to create a study group to look at materials in libraries and the extent of obscene or harmful books and content available, specifically to minors. Here's a look at the debate and conclusion lawmakers came to late Friday, again on a study group that would study what is happening in Idaho libraries, specifically what minors have access to.
Late into the night Friday, Idaho lawmakers discussed the notion that Idaho minors are accessing obscene and harmful materials in Idaho libraries.
There is material that is defined in our state code as being harmful to children, harmful to minors, that continues to be accessed in the shelves of our libraries.
Eagle Representative Gayanne DeMordaunt is the sponsor of House Resolution 23, a move in part to establish a working group to examine materials harmful to minors in libraries and K-12 schools. Republican lawmakers explain their stance in view of what they believe is happening in Idaho.
This is about our children and our grandchildren, and my real concern is we're losing them to evil.
Some of these books were brought to my attention, and I didn't even understand the law, but what we have right now is pornography is illegal, and you can't give pornography to kids. You can't even have child pornography, but it's in these books. It's in a lot of these books.
Some lawmakers clearly shifted blame to librarians that they believe are not protecting children from harmful materials. This comes in reference to pushback from some librarians about the now dead House Bill 666, a bill that would have removed the obscenity exemption for public schools, libraries, and museums.
At least for some librarians out there, they are more concerned about the well-being of librarians in their professional careers than they are about the welfare of children and the potential harm done to them if we move anywhere from the status quo of what's going on in libraries or schools or universities or museums.
Idaho Democrats were quick to push back, saying that the demonization of libraries and librarians is based on a story that is not really accurate.
It's a false narrative to suggest that obscene materials are all over in our libraries. They aren't. You might be able to find one or two examples that make certain members of our communities uncomfortable, but this is a false narrative. False. Absolutely false.
Democrat Representative James Ruckte made the case that lawmakers were being punitive, punishing librarians who spoke out on House Bill 666.
When librarians and library boards get their backs up and say it's a false narrative, they're accused with another false narrative that now they're defending this bad practice of having obscene materials and exposing kids to those obscene materials.
Some pushed back, saying it's not a false narrative at all.
It is not a false narrative. This is going on in libraries in the state of Idaho. I had a colleague of ours that was talking to another colleague about this issue. He said, well, let's pull up this book and let's see if it's available in your library in the under 5 section. He pulled it up. It's there. He said, Do you want to see the images? Colleague said, is it pornographic? He said, yeah. He goes, no, I don't want to see it.
Representative Chris Mathias made a point about who to blame when it comes to children and obscene material.
If 3-year-olds and 5-year-olds are going into libraries in Idaho and getting their hands on these materials, parents are failing at a level that no legislature can fix.
After extended debate, the resolution passed, paving the way for a study group focused on harmful materials in libraries in Idaho.
So the House resolution that we talked about a moment ago, that was just to, the idea to set up the study group. Well, we've learned today that the Idaho Senate, they're also on board with the study group. So that will be a full thing that is expected to host a lot of stakeholders. Democrats and Republicans are supposed to be on this study group, and the Commission for Libraries and librarians are supposed to be all a part of this. So we'll be watching that come down the pike really in the next several months. It will probably look a lot like the interim look into critical race theory in school. We'll be able to follow this very closely. One thing, though, Brian, I just want to add while we're on the legislative topic, the Coronavirus Pause Act.
I was just going to ask you about that because Representative Rebel said, yeah, from the bedroom to the boardroom. The boardroom leads us to this.
Yes, that's right. Okay. So the Coronavirus Pause Act, which we've talked about at length here on the 208, long story short, it would have basically given certain restrictions on having a vaccine for employees and also having a vaccine in order to enter certain places. Well, Governor Little, a short time ago, has vetoed that. So that is not going to go on the books. There is one more option for lawmakers. They could override the veto hypothetically. We'll see if they do that on Thursday. There's a question on if the numbers are there to override it. You need 2/3 of both houses, so it's wait and see. But the Coronavirus Pause Act, which did have a lot of support in the State House, was vetoed a short time ago by the governor.
All right. Thank you very much.